Before I start the video, I would just like to give out a warning for some flashing lights and some bright colors. What is up, enthusiasts? It is Cedar Flags here, and welcome back to another one of my videos. So, I was going to make a different video today, but the whole coaster community was pretty shocked to wake up to some pretty interesting roller coaster related news. At Islands of Adventure, one of the most popular amusement parks in the world, one of their attractions is closing down. Poseidon's Fury is not a roller coaster, nor a flat ride, but instead a walk-through attraction. It opened up with the park in the late 1990s and was very state-of-the-art at the time. The experience starts off as a tour through an ancient tomb, but gets a lot more interesting as there ends up being a battle of the gods. So I looked at the area it was in, and then realized that there is a much bigger problem surrounding the removal of this ride. Today, we are going to be talking about the decision, talk about a bigger problem surrounding this decision, and then talk about what could possibly replace this walkthrough attraction. This is Cedar Flags, and today, we are going to be talking about the future of Poseidon's Fury and Islands of Adventure. I only got to experience this once with my friend Mac, and I have to say, I actually really enjoyed it. I knew nothing getting into this, and since it was my first time, everything was a surprise. Despite me and my friend really liking this attraction and thinking it was a good fit, that was an unpopular opinion. So why wasn't it as liked as some other attractions at the park? Well, first of all, like I said, this is not a dark ride nor a roller coaster, it's not even a water ride, it's a walk-through attraction. And despite the special effects being absolutely incredible to me, a lot of people would also disagree. So like I said, they are removing this ride for good in the upcoming months. But it made me think about something. While I do think it is rather a decent choice to get rid of the attraction to make way for new attractions, this leaves nothing interesting in the Lost Continent area. And this is where my big problem with Universal starts. Now, once upon a time, the Lost Continent was one of the biggest areas in the park. It featured so many attractions including the dual B&M inverts dueling dragons, later known as Dragon Challenge, 2 different massive themed restaurants, Poseidon's Fury, and a show named Sinbad. In the late 2010s, the Sinbad Theater and the Dueling Dragons attraction closed down, and a lot of it in the past few years was annexed by Harry Potter World. Now, while I have no complaints with that, the Lost Continent was still a very small area, only highlighted by this walkthrough attraction. And now that's gone. So this leaves the Lost Continent with nothing but abandoned attractions and one themed restaurant. To talk a little more, here is Colin, my good friend from Coaster Coin, and he's going to talk a little bit about the situation.
Poseidon's Fury is officially closing for good, and I have a lot to say about that. First of all, I do think this was the right choice, as Poseidon Fury takes so much land. It's not even a joke. The land Poseidon's Fury sits on doesn't really justify its popularity, basically. Even though I think it's an underrated ride, it's time for a change. Had a good run, 24 years, it survived longer than Dueling Dragons, which I wouldn't predict that. I hope it is still relevant to the story of Islands of Adventure.
So instead of being more pessimistic, in the next part of the video, I want to talk about something more optimistic. This is Universal after all. They are very reliable and they will always have an incredible replacement in the way. So what could replace this attraction and what could possibly replace the Lost Continent? Now, this would be all fun and games, but I was thinking to myself, they are in the midst of building 2 parks, one of them being in Texas and one of them being a few blocks away at Epic Universe. Well, despite the fact that they are building Epic Universe, I don't think they are going to neglect Islands of Adventure too much. But at the same time, I do think that they are going to go a little bit on the back burner. And maybe in the next year or 2, we aren't going to see that much progress. But I guarantee you, in less than 5-6 years' time, there is going to be something new here. The first and most likely thing I could see would be a Harry Potter expansion. Now, I don't necessarily think that this is 100% going to happen. I would love to see at least a little bit of Lost Continent left, but at the same time, Harry Potter Land has been expanding like crazy, and it is a very popular area. And I could tell you, both times I was at the Universal Resort, by far the most crowded areas, despite even being hidden, were the Harry Potter areas. They are not declining in popularity whatsoever, and, well, that is definitely saying something. So, I could definitely see this expansion. Another thing I would love to see at the Universal Resort entirely would be a trackless dark ride. From my information, the Universal Resort in Florida does not have any of these yet, and these are sweeping all over the world, at Disney parks and Merlin parks alike. And a good example of this is Rise of the Resistance at Disneyland and Disney World. Another option I could see would be an indoor roller coaster. But what kind of indoor roller coaster? I feel like there are definitely a few options. The first one would be an Intamin multi-dimensional coaster. Now, not something too thrilling, but something around the size of Objective Mars. This is a spinning Intamin with launches and very interesting elements to it, and I really think something this high-tech would fit very well here. You could either theme it to Harry Potter or maybe some sort of expedition in this lost continent. Another thing I could see could be a Mach spinner. Now, I'm not talking about the Mach Extreme spinner, but instead a family Mach spinner, similar to a ride like Turbulence at Adventureland in New York. Now, Universal has worked with this model before, but only once or twice. The final two roller coasters I want to talk about are inverts. The first one is an Intamin invert. Now, they have made a few of these in the past few years, but these are a lot less popular than they used to be. Though I feel like this could add a lot of element to theming and bring back an invert at the park. In a very similar way, I would say that the Vekoma invert, or the STC, would be another viable pick. Now, my only complaint with this would be the lack of capacity, as these modern Vekomas aren't really the best when it comes to that, but at the same time, I think that Universal and Vekoma could definitely have a compromise. In the meantime, go check out my link in the description for my other social media accounts and my merch store. Anyways, until next time, this is Cedar Flags, and I'll see you all later.